It happened in the fall of 2017 in a quiet town outside Portland, Oregon. That morning, I had just finished breakfast and was sitting in my study when my phone began to ring. The call was from my cousin, Daniel. We were not the kind of relatives who spoke every day. So when I saw his name on the screen, I knew something was wrong. I answered. "Brother," Daniel said, his voice lower than usual, "I need to come by your place this afternoon. I'm bringing someone with me. He works at my office. Something very strange has been happening in his house, especially with his son." I asked him what kind of strange thing he meant. Daniel paused for a moment. "I think it's better if he tells you himself." That afternoon, just after 4, Daniel arrived with a man I had never seen before. He looked exhausted, as if he had not slept properly in days. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes were red, and his hands kept trembling in his lap even after I offered him a glass of water. Daniel introduced him as Fudded Marcus Whitman. Marcus lived with his wife, Finlora, and their 16-year-old son, Fine Ethan, in an old 2-story house near the edge of town. From the outside, they looked like a perfectly normal family. Marcus worked in an insurance office, Laura taught at a private elementary school, and Ethan was a quiet, intelligent boy who spent most of his time in his room. But according to Marcus, their normal life had ended 15 days earlier. He took a deep breath and began telling me everything. "It started one night," Marcus said. "Laura and I were asleep in our bedroom. Around 2 in the morning, Ethan suddenly burst into our room. He was shaking badly. His face was pale, his hair was wet with sweat, and he kept looking behind him like something had followed him down the hallway." He said, "Dad, I can't sleep in my room tonight. They won't leave me alone. Please let me sleep here. I'm scared." At first, I thought he had a nightmare, but before I could ask him anything, he collapsed onto the floor. Marcus told me he ran to Ethan and lifted him onto the bed. Ethan's body was burning with fever. His eyes were half open, but he seemed unaware of anything around him. After a few minutes, Ethan regained consciousness. Marcus gave him medicine and asked what he had meant by "they." Ethan's expression changed immediately. He looked terrified. Then he said, "It's nothing. Nobody is bothering me. My head just feels heavy. Please let me sleep." And after that, he turned away and fell asleep. Marcus said something about that moment felt wrong. Ethan was not only sick, he seemed like he was hiding something. The next morning, Marcus left for work before Ethan woke up. He had a busy day and could not check on home. By early evening, just after sunset, Marcus finally picked up his phone and noticed 15 missed calls from Laura. Before he could call back, Laura called again. The moment Marcus answered, he heard panic in her voice. "Why weren't you answering?" she cried. "Come home right now. Something is wrong with Ethan. I can't control him." Then the call disconnected. Marcus tried calling her back, but she did not answer. He left work immediately and drove home as fast as he could. When he entered the house, he found Laura sitting on the sofa with her hands pressed against her mouth. She looked like she had seen something no mother should ever see. Marcus asked what had happened. Laura said that after he had left for work, she tried to wake Ethan for breakfast, but he did not respond. She thought he was still sick and let him sleep. Hours passed. Morning became afternoon, and Ethan still did not wake. By late afternoon, Laura became worried and went into his room again. She shook his shoulder and called his name. Suddenly, Ethan sat straight up in bed. His eyes were bloodshot, his face twisted with rage. Then, in a voice Laura said did not sound like her son's, he whispered, "Are you not afraid to die?" Laura froze. Ethan continued, "Why do you keep disturbing me? Leave. Leave now. If I wake completely, your punishment will be death." Then he got out of bed, shoved her out of the room, and locked the door from the inside. Laura called Marcus again and again, but he never answered. For nearly an hour, she stood outside Ethan's door, knocking, begging him to open it. There was no response. Then, as soon as the evening church bells rang from the small chapel down the street, Ethan opened the door and walked out as if nothing had happened. But his face was still different. He looked at Laura and said, "I'm hungry. Bring me food." Laura, angry and terrified at the same time, scolded him. When he ignored her, she grabbed his arm. That was when Ethan turned on her. He seized Laura by the throat and pushed her onto the floor. Then he ran into the kitchen. Laura followed him and saw something that made her legs go weak. Ethan had pulled containers of cooked food from the refrigerator and dumped everything onto the kitchen floor. Meat, rice, pasta, leftover stew, everything was scattered across the tiles, and Ethan was kneeling over it, eating like an animal. Not with hunger, with rage. Laura stood there speechless. Then Ethan suddenly stopped eating and slowly lifted his head. "You disturbed me today," he said, "and everyone who disturbs me will receive the same punishment." Then he began laughing. Not a teenage boy's laugh, a deep, broken, wet sound that seemed to come from somewhere inside the walls. After that, he walked back to his room, lay down on the bed, and fell asleep. Marcus told me that when Laura finished explaining everything, he felt as if the floor had vanished beneath him. He rushed to Ethan's room and found the boy asleep, peaceful and still. He did not wake him. That night, nothing else happened. The next morning, Marcus decided to bring a priest from their church. He told the priest everything. The priest agreed to visit the house. But when they returned, Ethan was sitting at the dining table, eating breakfast like a normal boy. No fever, no anger, no strange voice. Laura told Marcus that Ethan had woken up shortly after he left and said he was starving. When she asked him about the previous day, Ethan laughed and said, "Mom, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything like that." The priest examined Ethan, prayed with him, and said there was no sign of possession. "He is healthy," the priest told them. "You may be frightened, but I do not believe anything supernatural is happening here." Then the priest left, but Marcus did not believe it. He said he could feel something wrong in the house. Something watching, something waiting. For 2 days, everything remained calm. Then, on the third night, Marcus saw the thing. He had returned from work late. After dinner, he went to bed, but sleep would not come. Ethan had been on his mind constantly. Around midnight, Marcus got up quietly and decided to check on him. He stepped into the hallway and walked toward the dining room. That was when he noticed the refrigerator door was open. The pale white light spilled across the kitchen floor. At first, Marcus thought Ethan was sneaking a midnight snack. But then he saw what stood beside him. Ethan was in front of the fridge, eating something raw from his hand. And behind him, half hidden in the light, was a creature Marcus could not explain. Its lower body dragged across the floor like the thick tail of a serpent. Its torso was covered in dense black hair, matted and wet. From its back grew 3 long, jointed limbs that looked almost like the legs of a giant spider. Its head was stretched forward like a crocodile's skull, but its face was covered with eyes, small eyes, large eyes, blinking eyes, all moving in different directions. Marcus told me that when he saw it, his entire body went numb. He tried to scream, but nothing came out. The last thing he remembered was the creature turning its many eyes toward him. Then everything went black. When Marcus woke up, Laura was kneeling beside him on the dining room floor, shaking him and crying. Before he could explain what he had seen, a scream ripped through the house. It came from Ethan's room. Marcus and Laura ran upstairs. When they opened the door, Ethan was standing on top of his bed. His eyes were wide with hatred. His face looked older somehow, sharper, almost inhuman. The moment he saw them, he jumped down and rushed at Marcus. He grabbed Marcus by the throat, threw him to the floor, and placed one foot on his chest. Then Ethan spoke. But it was not Ethan. "I hate mankind," the voice said. "Every one of you is weak. Every one of you deserves punishment. You brought your priest here. That little man couldn't even sense my presence." Then Ethan laughed. A few seconds later, he collapsed unconscious onto the floor. Marcus lifted him back onto the bed. That was when Marcus decided to come to me. He told me Ethan had always been obsessed with dark subjects, demonology, occult rituals, forbidden books, online forums about ancient entities. At first, Marcus and Laura thought it was teenage curiosity. They never imagined it could become something real. "I heard about you from Daniel," Marcus said, his eyes filling with tears. "Please, I don't know what is happening to my son, but I know something is trying to take him." I listened to everything carefully, then I agreed to go with him. On the way to his house, Laura called. Ethan had woken up. According to her, he was acting completely normal again and remembered nothing from the night before. When we arrived, I went straight to Ethan's room. He was sitting at his desk, wearing a gray hoodie, scrolling through his phone. He looked like any other teenager, calm, tired, confused. I asked him if he remembered screaming the night before. He shook his head. I asked him if he had ever tried any rituals, games, or occult experiments. For the first time, Ethan looked uncomfortable. "No," he said quickly. "That stuff is fake," but he would not look me in the eye. I prayed over him and read several verses aloud, watching carefully for any reaction. I expected something: anger, trembling, resistance, anything. But Ethan remained still, completely normal. That troubled me more than if he had screamed. Because in all my years dealing with strange cases, I had never seen something hide so perfectly. I told Marcus I would return the next day, but before I left, I asked him to search Ethan's room carefully and collect anything strange he found. Books, notebooks, printed pages, drawings, anything. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about the creature Marcus had described. It did not sound like a hallucination. It sounded like something old, something that knew how to remain unseen. Near midnight, I received a call from an old friend of mine, a man who had studied occult practices for many years. I told him everything Marcus had told me. He listened silently. Then he said, "Ask the father if the boy has a black book with a red symbol on the cover." I asked how he knew. My friend's voice became serious. "Because there are certain ritual books that circulate online and in private groups. Most are fake, but some are not. Some are copied from older texts. They teach summoning rituals that require blood. If the boy followed one of them, he may have made an invitation he cannot take back." The next morning, Marcus called me. His voice was shaking. He had found a book hidden under Ethan's mattress. It had a black cover, and a red symbol burned into the front. Inside were pages filled with drawings, strange names, and rituals. On one page, Marcus found dried brown stains. Blood. Later, when I examined the book, I realized Ethan had marked one ritual in particular. It was not written like a game. It was written like a contract. The ritual required the person to call upon an entity using their own blood for 3 consecutive nights. At the bottom of the page, there was a warning. The one who calls must offer life in exchange for presents. ***, Ethan had treated it as a joke. He wanted to prove demons were not real. So he performed the ritual, not once, not twice, 3 times. By doing that, he had not simply called something. He had given it permission. The entity attached to him was not the kind of thing that could be frightened away by casual prayer or church visits. It was old. It was cunning. It used illusion. It could make a room full of people see whatever it wanted them to see. That explained why Ethan seemed normal when I prayed over him. He was not normal. We were being deceived. Marcus begged me to help him save his son. I told him I would come again that evening. But I never got the chance. Just after dawn, my phone rang. It was Marcus. He was sobbing so hard I could barely understand him. "Ethan is gone," he said. "It took my boy. It took my son from us." When I arrived at the Whitman house, police cars were already outside. Laura was sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. Ethan had been found in his room. He had taken his own life. I will not describe everything I saw that morning. Some images should never be placed into another person's mind, but I will say this. Ethan's body was unnaturally pale, almost white, as if every drop of blood had been drained from him. His eyes were open wide, fixed on the ceiling, filled with a terror that death itself had not erased. A few days later, Marcus came to see me again. He wanted to know why it had happened, why his son had been taken. I told him the truth as gently as I could. Ethan had opened a door. And some doors do not close just because we regret opening them. Curiosity is not always harmless. There are things in this world that should not be touched, not because they are myths, but because they are waiting for someone foolish enough to invite them in. So if you ever find an old ritual online, if you ever come across a book that asks for blood, if something promises to answer when called, do not test it. Do not laugh at it. Do not say the words out loud, because sometimes the thing listening in the dark is not waiting to scare you. It is waiting for permission. And once you give it permission, it may never leave.